All right. Ready to jump into something really cool?
Absolutely.
Regenerative agriculture.
Oh, yeah. I've been hearing a lot about this.
You've been wanting to like really get a grip on it.
Uh-huh.
And we found this awesome handbook
Oh, perfect.
all about regenerative agriculture. So it's
Love
not
that.
just like sustainable agriculture.
Yeah, right.
This is about actually,
Taking it further.
making the land better than how you found it.
Yeah, almost like like healing the planet kind of thing.
Totally.
Yeah.
So before we get ahead of ourselves,
Okay.
what exactly is regenerative agriculture?
Yeah, good point. We should start with the basics.
Yeah.
So regenerative agriculture, at its core, is a holistic approach to farming,
Holistic. Okay.
which means we're not just looking at individual parts of the farm.
Okay.
We're looking at the entire ecosystem,
Got it.
all the parts working together.
Okay, so like the soil, the plants, the animals, everything's connected.
Yeah, even the people involved.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
So it's like we're thinking of the farm
Right.
like a living organism
Exactly.
instead of just like a factory for food.
Exactly. We're moving away from that industrial model
Yeah,
and trying to work with nature, not against it.
that makes a lot of sense.
And to really understand it,
Yeah.
we need to look back a bit
Oh, okay.
to the history of it all.
Okay, so like where did this idea come from?
Well, you might be surprised to learn that a lot of the principles behind regenerative agriculture are actually rooted in ancient wisdom.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, for centuries.
Yeah.
Indigenous cultures around the world,
Mhm.
they've been practicing these techniques
Okay.
that helped the land regenerate naturally.
Wow. So like it's not a brand new thing.
Not at all. It's about rediscovering and adapting
Okay.
these time-tested methods.
Interesting. So like what are some examples of that?
Well, a classic example is the Three Sisters method used by Native Americans.
Oh, yeah. I've heard about that.
Where they grow corn, beans, and squash together.
Yeah.
It's just brilliant, really.
And like why is that so great?
Well, the corn provides a natural support for the beans to climb.
Okay.
The beans fix nitrogen in the soil, which is like free fertilizer.
Nice.
And the squash, it acts as a living mulch.
So like keeps the weeds down.
Yeah, helps retain moisture,
Uh-huh.
suppresses weeds, exactly.
Awesome. So it's like they all help each other out.
Exactly. It's a beautiful example of how nature can work in synergy.
It makes you wonder, like,
It does.
why do we ever stop doing things that way?
It's a good question.
Yeah.
I mean, there were a lot of factors,
Okay.
but one key event that really shifted things
Yeah.
was the Dust Bowl in the 1930s.
Oh, yeah. Right.
A huge environmental disaster.
Like a wake-up call. Right.
It was. It showed just how fragile
Yeah.
our agricultural systems could be.
And like how important soil is.
Yes, soil health is crucial.
Yeah.
And it was neglected for a long time.
So after the Dust Bowl, people started thinking differently.
They had to. The consequences of
Yeah.
ignoring the land were devastating.
So was that like the birth of regenerative agriculture?
You could say that. It was a turning point.
Oh, wait.
People started realizing that we needed a new approach.
Okay, so what makes regenerative agriculture different? Like, what are the key ideas?
Well, it's not just about avoiding harm, like sustainable agriculture.
Okay.
It's about actively restoring
Right.
and enhancing
Uh-huh.
the ecosystem.
So, like, healing the damage that's been done
Exactly.
and building something even better.
That's the goal.
Okay, I'm really interested to hear more about these principles.
Me too. Let's dig into those next.
Awesome.
Welcome back to our deep dive into regenerative agriculture.
Yeah, those principles were really interesting.
Yeah, they're key.
Especially that whole, like, minimizing soil disturbance thing.
Right.
It seems kind of counterintuitive, you know?
It does, doesn't it?
Like, don't you need to till the soil?
Well, that's what we've been told for a long time.
Right, exactly.
But it turns out tilling can actually do more harm than good.
Really?
Yeah, when we till the soil, we're basically disrupting a whole world beneath the surface.
Like, what kind of world are we talking about?
A world of microorganisms, billions of them.
Wow.
Bacteria, fungi, earthworms.
Like a whole city down there.
It is, and they're all working together, breaking down organic matter, cycling nutrients, creating this amazing soil structure that can hold water and air.
So tilling is like bulldozing that city.
That's a great analogy. It disrupts that delicate balance, makes the soil more vulnerable to erosion and compaction.
So no-till farming is about letting that city thrive.
Exactly. We're giving the soil a chance to breathe, to regenerate naturally.
Makes sense.
And you know what's really cool?
What's that?
When we reduce tillage, We also reduce the amount of carbon dioxide released into the atmosphere.
Oh, right, because soil is a carbon sink.
It is a huge one. So by not tilling, we're helping to mitigate climate change.
So it's a win-win.
Absolutely. Healthy soil, healthy planet.
I like that.
And no-till is just one way to minimize soil disturbance.
Oh, okay. So what else can farmers do?
Well, another key practice is keeping the soil covered,
Covered. Okay.
like with cover crops or mulch.
Okay. So like a protective layer.
Exactly. It's like giving the soil a blanket, shielding it from the harsh elements.
I like that visual.
Keeps it from drying out, prevents erosion.
So cover crops, they're like plants that you grow just for the soil.
Right, not for harvesting.
Yuck.
They might be legumes, which are great for fixing nitrogen.
Nitrogen's important for plants.
Essential. It's a key nutrient.
Okay.
And some cover crops have deep roots that help improve soil structure.
Got it.
So by keeping living roots in the ground year-round, we're constantly feeding the soil, keeping those microbes happy.
It's like an all-you-can-eat buffet for the soil.
I love that. And the bonus is, cover crops also help to suppress weeds.
So less need for herbicides.
Exactly. We're working with nature, not against it.
Now, what about mulching? Isn't that like more of a gardening thing?
People use it in gardens, yeah, but it can be done on a larger scale too.
Oh, interesting.
It's basically just covering the soil with organic material,
Okay.
like straw, wood chips, compost.
I see. So it's kind of like cover crops, but in a different way.
It's a similar concept, yeah.
Okay.
Providing that protective layer, adding organic matter as it breaks down.
Okay. So minimizing soil disturbance and keeping the soil covered are two key principles.
Right.
What else is there?
Well, another important principle is maximizing biodiversity.
Biodiversity, huh?
You know, in nature, ecosystems thrive on diversity.
Makes sense.
The more diverse a system is, the more resilient it is to pests, diseases, all sorts of stresses.
So like monoculture farming is a bad thing
It can be, yeah.
because you just have that one crop.
Right, vast fields of the same thing.
Makes it an easy target, I guess.
Exactly. Monocultures are more susceptible to outbreaks, and they often require a lot of chemical inputs to stay healthy.
So regenerative agriculture is about mixing things up a bit.
Exactly. Creating a more diverse and balanced ecosystem.
How do farmers do that?
One way is through crop rotation.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of that.
You grow a different crop on the same land each year.
Right?
It helps break pest cycles, improves soil fertility, and reduces the need for synthetic fertilizers and pesticides.
Interesting. So it's like giving the soil a varied diet.
That's a great way to put it. And another way to boost biodiversity is through polyculture.
Polyculture, okay.
That's where you grow multiple crops together in the same space.
Like the Three Sisters.
Exactly. But there are many other combinations that work well together.
So it's like creating a little ecosystem within the farm.
Exactly. Each plant supporting the others.
Very cool.
And then, of course, there's livestock integration.
Yeah, I was wondering about it.
In regenerative agriculture, animals are seen as essential partners.
Partners, okay.
They're not just there for meat or milk.
Right,
They
right.
play a crucial role in the overall ecosystem.
So how does that...
One of the most common practices is rotational grazing.
Okay, so you move the animals around.
Exactly. Instead of letting them graze in one place until it's bare,
Right.
we move them frequently between different paddocks.
I see. So it's like mimicking how animals would graze in the wild.
Precisely. And it gives the land a chance to rest and recover.
Makes sense.
And the animals, they benefit too.
How so?
They get a more diverse diet, which is healthier for them.
Okay.
And their hooves actually help aerate the soil.
Interesting. So it's like nature's way of tilling.
It is. And their manure acts as a natural fertilizer.
So it's a win-win for everyone.
Exactly. The animals, the soil, the farmer.
It's amazing how it all comes together.
It really is. It's about seeing the interconnectedness of everything.
Well, you've definitely given me a lot to think about.
Good. And there's so much more to learn.
I bet.
In our next segment, we'll look at some real-world examples of regenerative farms.
I can't wait to hear about that.
It's inspiring stuff.
Awesome. Looking forward to it. Okay, so we've talked about the what and the why of regenerative agriculture.
The history, the principle.
Yeah, all that good stuff.
Uh-huh.
But now I want to know how it actually plays out on farms.
That's the exciting part, seeing it in action.
Exactly. So, like, what are farmers actually doing?
Well, there's no one-size-fits-all approach.
Okay.
Regenerative agriculture is more like a toolbox
A toolbox.
filled with different practices
Got it.
that farmers can choose from.
So, like, they can adapt it to their own situation.
Exactly. It's about working with nature, not imposing a rigid system.
I like that. So what are some of the tools in this toolbox?
Well, we've already touched on no-till farming, cover cropping, integrating livestock,
Right, right.
but there's a whole lot more.
Okay, what?
One practice that's gaining a lot of traction is agroforestry.
Agroforestry. Now that sounds interesting.
It is. It's basically about incorporating trees and shrubs into the farm landscape.
Trees on a farm. That's kind of cool. Mm.
It is, and it makes a lot of sense when you think about it.
Okay, so how does that work?
Well, it can take different forms, like alley cropping.
Alley cropping.
Yeah, where you plant rows of trees alongside crops. Or windbreaks, rows of trees to protect fields from wind erosion.
Makes sense.
And the benefits are amazing.
Like what?
The trees provide shade.
Keeps things cooler.
Yeah, reduces water loss, creates a more favorable microclimate for the crops.
Interesting.
And they act as carbon sinks, pulling CO2 out of the atmosphere.
Oh, right. Trees are good for that.
They are. Plus, their deep roots help improve soil structure and water infiltration.
So it's like bringing a bit of the forest onto the farm.
Exactly. And that creates habitat for beneficial insects and wildlife, too.
So more biodiversity.
Always a good thing.
Yeah, for sure. And speaking of diversity, I know we've mentioned permaculture before.
Oh, yeah, permaculture's awesome.
But how does it relate to regenerative agriculture exactly?
Well, permaculture is a design system, a way of thinking about land management that aims to create sustainable human settlements.
Sustainable. Uh-huh.
By mimicking the patterns and relationships found in nature.
So it's like taking inspiration from natural ecosystems.
Exactly. And it emphasizes things like perennial crops, water harvesting, natural building materials.
So it's about like the whole picture.
It is. It's about creating self-sufficient systems, minimizing waste.
And that aligns with regenerative agriculture.
Absolutely. Many of the principles overlap.
It's like they complement each other.
They do.
It's amazing how everything seems to connect.
It is, isn't it? It's all about understanding those connections, working with nature instead of against it.
That's a powerful idea.
It is. But we can't forget about the human element in all of this.
Oh, right. It's not just about the plants and the soil.
It's about the people, too, the farmers, the communities.
So what are some of the social and economic aspects of regenerative agriculture?
Well, for one thing, it has the potential to revitalize rural communities.
Okay, how so?
By creating more diverse and resilient farms, we create new economic opportunities.
Makes sense.
And it fosters a sense of stewardship for the land.
So it's about more than just profits.
It is. It's about creating a more just and equitable food system. And there's this growing movement towards community-supported agriculture.
DSA, I've heard of that.
Where consumers connect directly with farmers, share in the risks and the rewards.
So it's like a partnership.
Exactly. It builds community, increases awareness.
And what about food sovereignty?
That's a huge part of it, too.
Can you explain what that means?
It's the right of people to define their own food and agricultural systems.
So like taking control of your own food supply.
Exactly. It's about empowering communities to make choices that are best for them.
That's really important.
It is. And regenerative agriculture aligns perfectly with that vision.
Because it's adaptable, right?
It is. It's about working with communities, respecting local knowledge, creating systems that are tailored to specific needs.
This has been so eye-opening.
I'm glad. It's a fascinating topic.
It really is. I feel like we've only scratched the surface.
We have. But hopefully this deep dive has sparked your curiosity.
Definitely has.
And given you a foundation to explore further.
It has, for sure. Thanks for sharing your expertise.
My pleasure. You know, the future of our food system is in our hands.
That's a powerful thought.
It is. By embracing regenerative practices, we can create a world where agriculture not only sustains us, but actually heals the planet.
What a great way to put it. So inspiring.
It's hopeful, isn't it?
It is. And to all our listeners out there, if you're interested in learning more, I encourage you to seek out regenerative farms in your area.
Yeah, see what they're doing.
Support their efforts, get involved.
Every little bit helps.
Together, we can create a more sustainable and regenerative future.
Absolutely.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into regenerative agriculture.